Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps!
This line from Iron Man has become somewhat of a meme, I guess, and it even made a reappearance 11 years later in Spider-Man Far From Home.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps!
On the surface, it's a funny, over-the-top moment for Jeff Bridges featuring some whip-tie action. But I honestly think it's also a great scene. Here's why. As with most things, context is key. Let's take a look at what has led to this moment. By this point in the movie, or if you were buying Iron Man merchandise back then, the audience has discovered that Obadiah is the villain of this story. That he tried to have Tony killed, that he's been selling weapons to terrorists and has built his own armor suit based off Tony's salvaged original. With S.H.I.E.L.D. closing in, Obadiah goes to his science team to see if they've managed to mimic Stark's breakthrough, but, well...
And it seems as though there's a little hiccup, actually, hiccup? Yeah.
Stane is out of time and options. Likely cracking under the pressure, he steals the functioning reactor from Tony to power his own suit. What follows is utter chaos as Stane fights both some government agents and Tony himself, ultimately losing. Stane's character arc shows a man who likes to have plans and dislikes being overshadowed, but can put up with it if there's gain to be made, and for the first 2 acts of the film, that's exactly what's happening. He's tired of Stark and decides to finally take the company for himself, making his under-the-table weapons deals that much easier, and orders the hit. Unfortunately for Stane, the terrorists find out who the target was and want more money. Whatever Stane's reaction might have been doesn't matter since Tony escapes, and Stane, being a self-described ironmonger, wants to get his hands on the escape method in question, the arc reactor and the next generation of weapons it might produce. He's instrumental in shutting Tony out of his company and eventually gets his hands on the prototype suit, tying up some loose ends in the process. The next generation of weaponry is all but in his hands, to be sold to the highest bidder provided that either Tony shares the details of the arc reactor, or his own scientists can mimic Stark's breakthrough. Then it all falls apart, courtesy of Pepper and his own oversight. Seriously, man, clean your computer. When Pepper is leaving with Coulson, it's basically already over for him, and he knows it. With his team unable to recreate the arc reactor, he steals Tony's, making another attempt on his life, powers up the suit, and fights off the agents who came to arrest him, and, drunk on adrenaline and power, engages in a powered armor street brawl with Stark, which culminates in Stane's death. Maybe at the end, Stane was like a bankrupt businessman locking himself in his office with a shotgun, but on steroids. Or maybe his plan was to fly into hiding and try to sell his suit on the black market, or maybe he just has a lot of faith in expensive lawyers. So what does all this have to do with a brief glimpse of an angry businessman creating a bad working environment? Stane's arc is split between cloak and dagger planning and utter mayhem when those plans fall through, and this moment is the bridge. This was his last chance to do things quietly. Coulson is off probably collecting warrants or something. There's time for him to get the reactor and escape covertly, continuing his cloak and dagger methods. But he's told that yet another plan has failed, and he cracks. His usually soft voice suddenly explodes into an angry roar, a sound we will hear constantly during the final confrontation. And he now acts recklessly, showing the monster that was underneath the whole time, revealing himself as someone who doesn't care about life, innocent or otherwise.
Collateral damage, Tony.
Someone who is proud, sadistic, and boiling over with rage. Directing decades of pent-up anger on anything in sight, compensating for years in the background, in the Stark's shadows, by bursting from them in a gigantic suit, ready to unleash hell on the world for profit or his own pride.
You had a great idea, Tony, but my suit is more advanced in every way.
This yell is the mask falling off, and yes, it is funny, but it's also a great, villainous scene. Of course, this is just my opinion. Let me know yours down in the comments, and like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.